is no favoritism with our Lord above. That's not to say you stop giving leadership or you stop giving instructions. It's not to say that you expect any less of your employees because they're Christians or you're a Christian. But it is to say you treat people decently and graciously and well. You don't threaten, you don't cajole. Your leadership is of a different kind because at the end of the day, you follow a different leader and you serve a different Lord. Friends, following Jesus Christ and belonging to Jesus Christ and honoring Jesus Christ as Lord, it transforms all our relationships and all our interactions. It transforms the home and it transforms the workplace for all of us, whether parent or child, whether employer or employee. The challenge of God's word in all this is very great, but the help of His Spirit is all sufficient. It's not I, but Christ through me. May the Lord give us the grace by His Spirit, day by day and moment by moment, to be transformed in these relationships, that we might be children of light, distinctive, righteous, God-glorifying in a very dark world.
お祈りお願いします。今から自分に行きます。みんなと楽しいレッスンができることを願ってます。いつものように事故のないように、主イエスキリストを見守ってください。アーメン。天の父様、今父はちょっと咳込んでおりますが、どうにか癒してください。今日サウナに入ってたくさん汗をかいて、そして癒しが与えられることを祈っております。どうにかまた、お守りください。すべてを今日感謝します。この祈りを主イエスキリストの皆によってお祈りします。アーメン。咳止め飲んだ？今日飲んだ。あ、飲んできた。
Sinners reconciled, and the idea
values and ensuring a stronger, upright America for our families and future generations. AFA Insider, formerly AFA Alert, informs you first about AFA's mission and aiding the church in its task of fulfilling the Great Commission. Sign up to receive AFA Insider emails at afa.net.
Do you feel like your hands are tied with debt, preventing you from serving God? If you have credit card debt, Christian credit counselors can help. Through our debt
サンドイッチ持ってきたね。持ってきた。
faster while honoring your debt in full. For more information on how Christian credit counselors can help, visit christiancreditcounselors.org. That's christiancreditcounselors.org, or call 800-557-1985. 800-557-1985.
A few of the benefits of a charitable gift annuity are a fixed percentage for the rest of your life paid to you, a partial tax deduction, as well as partial tax-free income, and then upon your passing, any remaining funds are then gifted to the American Family Association. So give us a call today at 1-800-326-4543, extension 345. We look forward to speaking with you soon.
Paying too much for health insurance? Frustrated by high deductibles and increasing premiums? There's a better way. Christian Healthcare Ministries. CHM is a Christian community delivering a faith-based solution to the high costs of healthcare. Take control over your healthcare costs with a program from CHM that could save you up to 40%. Learn more and enroll today at chministries.org/faithfi. That's chministries.org/faithfi.
Great to have you with us today on Faith and Finance right here on American Family Radio. I'm Rob West. Well, we've got room for you today. We're taking your calls and questions. We'll get back to the phones in just a minute. So if you have a financial question today, you'd like to be a part of the broadcast, I'd invite you to do just that. Would you call right now? 800-525-7000. That's 800-525-7000. We can tackle your spending plan questions. How do you get on a budget and stick with it? How do you find something that actually works for you? I can share some ideas on that. Perhaps it's navigating the stock market, starting off flat today, but boy, we've had a red hot year, and who would have thought, right? And heading into next year, all the prospects of growth and cutting government waste and regulation, and what could that do to our economy? Perhaps this bull market has more legs. We could talk about navigating your 401k or investments. What if you're on the sideline? How do you enter and win? What about paying down debt or giving generously? Whatever's on your mind today, we'd love to tackle those questions. Again, lines are open. You can call right now, 800-525-7000. We'll also be speaking to Bob Dahl today in our final segment. Bob is our resident market expert. He's a frequent contributor on Wall Street, both on Fox Business and CNBC, speaking all over the world on the markets. Bob is a Christ follower, a good friend of ours here. He's on the board of directors at Kingdom Advisors, and he joins us each Monday with his market commentary. Today, he'll be providing his year-end recap for his 10 predictions. Bob is well known across Wall Street for his 10 annual predictions on the markets and the economy. And this year, well, he'll tell you how he did with his 2024 predictions, and perhaps we can even get a precursor of what might be coming just after the first of the year with the 2025 predictions. Bob Dahl coming up just a bit later in the broadcast. We'll look forward to that. In the news today, before we head to the phones again, time is running out for most flexible spending account holders. Although some FSA plans have an extended grace period, eligible spending for about 70% of account holders expires on December 31st. That's just 2 weeks from now. That means use it or lose it for most FSA account holders. According to the market research firm Numerator, folks with flexible spending accounts put in an average of $2,250 annually. That money is contributed tax deferred, giving account holders a significant break on qualified out-of-pocket medical, dental, vision, and dependent care expenses. Those include doctor's visits, prescriptions, over-the-counter medicines, insulin, surgery, vision care, a host of other expenses. So here's the bottom line. If you have money left in your FSA, your flexible spending account, time is running out to schedule any medically necessary procedures. Failing that, you can always stock up on medical supplies, anything from, again, insulin to Band-Aids, or order a backup pair of glasses or contacts to use up those remaining funds. Different than an HSA, which allows you to carry those balances over, and in fact that becomes a pretty effective retirement planning tool. With the FSA, again, in 70% of cases, you will lose it at December 31st. With those other accounts, you may have a little bit of a grace period, but you will eventually, with an FSA, lose all of it if you don't spend it. So just keep that in mind over the next couple of weeks. All right, let's head to the phones. Again, we've got, looks like 3 lines open at 800-525-7000. To Tennessee. Hi, Billy. Go ahead.
Hey, how you doing? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
For receiving my call. Listen, I got 2 children, 41 and 51, and in the last few years they've become millionaires. And so I want some literature that I can give it, a book I can give it to Christians that are helping develop a plan for investing in the kingdom. And on one of your shows I heard about somebody was talking about, you make enough money to retire, it's unending. It's making money, but I want to know what's the limit that they should go to know they have enough of a retirement they can invest more in the kingdom.
Yeah. It's a great question, and what you're talking about is what we'll refer to as a financial finish line, or answering the question, how much is enough? And, that's a really key idea, especially as a Christ follower, as we think about our role in managing God's money. I think we always need to be asking the question, how much is enough? And that includes both for our lifestyle as well as our accumulation. So how much is enough for our monthly spending? There's not a quote, appropriate Christian lifestyle. It's ultimately between you as the steward and the Lord. And if you're married, you and your spouse and the Lord, as you determine what is that appropriate lifestyle for you. And I think it takes a matter of prayer and some really thoughtful consideration, as you think through that. Some people will use a multiple of the average income in their area. Others will look at their current lifestyle and say, I'm not going to go beyond this. No matter how much income continues to come in, I'm going to cap it here. There's a number of ways you can approach that, but I've found that every time someone goes through that exercise, they come out on the other side just with a lot of joy and fulfillment, because what it allows you to do is say, there is a point where I just don't need anymore. And then I can see additional provision from the Lord as an opportunity to give generously and get it back into God's kingdom, which I think is just an amazing privilege that we have as believers, to be invited into God's kingdom building activities in your city and around the globe, and we need to be looking at that. We also need to be thinking about the finish line for long-term accumulation, and I think this is what you're referring to, which is this idea that, there is enough there at some point, and you may already be at enough, and therefore everything that comes in beyond the point you're currently at in terms of the assets you've already accumulated, you're going to start looking for opportunities to give it away. And guess what? When you do that, that's going to drive taxes down, which means you have even more to give away. So I think it's an important exercise. Couple of thoughts here. Let me send you a book called Master Your Money from Ron Blue. It addresses, among other things, this idea of a financial finish line, and perhaps you could pass this on to the kids at Christmas time. Again, it's called Master Your Money by a good friend of ours, Ron Blue. Stay on the line, Billy. We'll get 2 copies of that out to you as our gift to you. Thanks for calling. We'll be right back.
Faith and Finance is grateful for the support of Certified Kingdom Advisor Wade Chessman.
プロテイン持ってきた。シェイクするやつ持ってきた。
Values guide their financial future. Wade has written a downloadable brochure that addresses specific issues Christians face in managing their finances. You can get it at chessmanwealth.com/Christian. Investment advisory services offered through CWM LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
The executive office does have to direct a lot of these procedures in terms of amnesty, what they can do, even though Congress needs to step it up, and we know constitutionally they should be making sure that the law reflects the American position, but law enforcement is the executive branch, and if you're not enforcing the law, then the law is merely just on paper.
Jenna Ellis in the morning, weekdays at 7 Central on American Family Radio.
Are you a financial advisor or CPA seeking to build your practice on biblical wisdom? Not only does the Certified Kingdom Advisor education provide you with deep biblical insights, the CKA designation sets you apart. Each year, almost 50,000 people search for a Christian financial advisor. Join our community and share your expertise with clients looking for someone who shares their faith and values. Find more information at kingdomadvisors.com/getcertified.
Financial fear is real, but so is God's promise to provide. At FaithFi, we know the daily stress of money can overwhelm your heart, but Jesus reminds us to look at the birds of the air and look at the sparrows, a 21-day devotional. You'll find peace by focusing on God's faithfulness as you discover how to overcome financial anxiety with faith. Request a copy of the Look at the Sparrows devotional today with your gift of $25 or more by going to faithfi.com/give.
AFA Action takes attacks on the family seriously. The enemies of the family constantly employ new tactics to try to sneak past our radar. They know if we stand together, their evil plans will fail. Your gift to AFA Action allows us to stay vigilant against their onslaught. And if you give this month, you'll receive access to the Cultural Institute video When Your Faith is Illegal by Frank Harbor on AFA Stream as our thanks. You can make your gift today at afaaction.net.
Faith and Finance is grateful for support from Sound Mind Investing. For more than 30 years, they've offered financial wisdom for living well. SMI provides step-by-step guidance for do-it-yourself investors, from those just getting started to those getting ready for retirement. More information, including a short video webinar on profit and peace of mind, no matter what's happening in the market, is available at soundmindinvesting.org.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
Hey, thanks for joining us today on Faith and Finance here on American Family Radio. You know, we were talking to Billy before the break about a financial finish line, and one of the articles in our brand new publication, Faithful Steward, that is due out next month, that's right, the middle of January, we'll launch this new beautiful quarterly digest, 52 pages and chock full of articles and content that's theologically sound and practical and wise. And the idea is that you would have a resource every quarter that would just encourage you in your role as a steward managing God's money. Beautifully designed. I can't wait for you to get your hands on it. But one of the articles that we tackle in the first inaugural edition of Faithful Steward is this idea of setting your first finish line. That's right. Think about this. You know, after 40 years of wandering the desert, standing across the Jordan River from the Promised Land, Moses addressed the nation of Israel, and he was preparing them for one of their greatest challenges yet. This final test would be more challenging than disease, more challenging than hunger, more challenging than attacks from rival nations. What was it? It was prosperity. Beware lest you say in your heart, my power and the might of my hand have gotten me this wealth. You shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the power to get wealth. You remember that in Deuteronomy 8? Well, in this reminder, Moses provides two warnings. First, he warns of the deceptive ability of wealth to draw our attention away from him and onto our strength and wit. Second, he reminds Israel that every ounce of the abundance that they were about to behold belonged to God alone. They would only ever be stewards of that gift. And, you know, every one of us today faces that same test. I've faced it in my own life, and I would say that I haven't always been up to that challenge. I'm sure some of you listening would agree with that statement. Well, one tool that has dramatically turned the tide for a lot of folks is this idea of a financial finish line. And our friend Cody Hobbleman writes about this in this first edition of Faithful Steward in this article, Setting Your First Finish Line. And he provides an allocation framework. And this is along the lines of what I was just talking about with Billy. But in the broader framework of generosity and financial stewardship, allocation refers to the way a person answers this question: how much do I give and how much do I keep? And nearly all givers fall into 5 major allocation structures. We can use spontaneous giving, we can set a giving goal, we can do percentage giving, we can do an incremental percentage giving opportunity, or we can set a financial finish line. Now, let's talk about each of these, because I think these are really important as we think about kind of how we want to go about this. But a financial finish line is really that opportunity to change the paradigm completely by setting this defined maximum on personal spending. You see, every other allocation framework assumes that the giver as the default owner of the resources, who then allocates a portion to God's kingdom. Well, a finish line assumes God is the default owner. And in this case, we take only what we need of God's resources and we use the rest for God's kingdom. Now, all of our personal finances can be seen as a constant flow of resources into our control, which we then allocate to basically 4 buckets: personal spending, taxes, planning for the future, and let's call it giving or kingdom building. Now, personal spending includes everything we spend to maintain our lifestyle month to month. So, you know, we're talking the main expenses here: food and transportation and your mortgage, you know, whatever it is. Personal debt. Planning for the future involves savings, retirement planning, investing, real estate investing, business ownership. Every month we may contribute resources to further plan for the future, or we may use previously saved resources to facilitate our personal spending. That would typically happen during retirement. And then, of course, kingdom building involves all forms of giving, ministry, and other impact work. Well, the most important finish line is going to be your spending, or your lifestyle finish line. A spending finish line is the maximum you're going to be willing to spend on your own lifestyle month to month, and this type of finish line, I think, is the most protective against lifestyle inflation, what some people call lifestyle creep. And there's many ways to set a spending finish line, but here's the three most common that we see and that Cody writes about in this article in the new Faithful Steward publication. The first is what we might call a maintenance spending finish line. So you determine the spending necessary to maintain your current lifestyle by reviewing your expenses for the past few months, and then a maintenance finish line involves simply refusing to increase your spending from this level. So you essentially kind of establish a ceiling and say, I'm not going beyond that, regardless of how much comes in to my home. The second would be what you might call a benchmark spending finish line. So you use an external reference point to determine how much a person in your circumstances should expect to need month to month. Well, there's a lot of great tools you can use. Cody and his brother Keelan have something called the Finish Line Pledge at finishlinepledge.com. You could look at that. You could do a multiple of kind of the average, annual income in your town. You could look at any number of opportunities there, and as you establish that benchmark finish line, so you kind of compare yourself to others, and then you determine perfectly where you're going to set it. And then I think the third one is what I might call a prioritization spending finish line. So in this one, you begin by reflecting on how God is working in and through you and your family. You review all of your expenses from the last few months and identify spending areas that maybe are distracting you from God's greater purpose in your life. You determine how much your monthly spending would decrease by adjusting those spending areas. The easiest way to begin with a new spending finish line is to give it let's say a 3 to 6 month trial period. I'm not sure I've ever seen anyone turn back after that trial run, but think of your new finish line, whichever of these models you choose, as your first spending finish line. Almost everyone needs to adjust their finish line from time to time, and you don't want to feel pressure to get it right or get it perfect the first time around. It's much better to start somewhere and then refine it over time than never start at all. Now, once you have a spending finish line in place, you will soon have most of the details needed to set a net worth or accumulation finish line to guide your planning for the future. Because remember, what we were talking about is month-to-month spending, but you also have to think about how much am I setting aside, and is there an enough number or a finish line for that, for accumulation or net worth. And that's a wonderful conversation to bring your financial advisor into so they can help you maintain your spending finish line for life. And by the way, that's yet one more reason why we would say it's important to have a certified kingdom advisor that's working with you, somebody who shares your values as a Christ follower and can understand what it is you're trying to accomplish, and perhaps not derail you from capping your lifestyle or capping your accumulation so that you can accelerate your giving. But here's what I would say to you. Over time, you're going to see the incredible fruit in your life after setting the finish line. It's just the beginning, I think, of an incredible adventure. And some of the most inspiring givers I know have done this, and they will tell you it was a game changer, not only for them financially and in their family and in their marriage, but spiritually as well. Think about that. This is going to be in our first edition of Faithful Steward, out next month. I can't wait for you to see it. A quick break and back with Bob Dahl. Our thanks to Certified Kingdom Advisor Wade Chessman, President and Wealth Advisor, and his team at Chessman Wealth Strategies in Dallas for their support of faith and finance. Their goal is to help their clients expand their understanding of biblical financial principles and how to implement them. The website is chessmanwealth.com. The phone number is 214-572-2120. Investment advisory services offered through CWM LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
To all of our friends on American Family Radio, this is Michael Brown, thrilled to announce to you that we have a brand new 30-minute daily equipping broadcast that will light a fresh fire in your life and will infuse you with faith and truth and courage to help you stand strong in the Lord. It's coming your way 12:30 every single night, 5 days a week. Don't miss a single broadcast on The Line of Fire. I believe your life will be changed.
We're grateful for support from Guidestone, whose diversified suite of investment solutions align with Christian values to create positive change in the world. More information is available at guidestonefunds.com/faith. Investing involves risk, including potential loss of principal. Carefully consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of Guidestone Funds before investing. They're distributed by Foresight Funds Distributors, LLC, which is not an advisory affiliate, a registered investment advisor, nor do they provide investment advice.
If the heavy burden of debt is robbing you of freedom and peace of mind, Christian Credit Counselors can help. We're a nationwide nonprofit credit counseling organization that has helped over 300,000 individuals in the last 27 years get out of credit card debt 80% faster while honoring that debt in full. To learn how Christian Credit Counselors can help you, visit ChristianCreditCounselors.org. That's ChristianCreditCounselors.org, or call 800-557-1985.
Great to have you with us today on Faith and Finance here on American Family Radio. I'm Rob West. Before we head back to the phones, Bob Dahl is here. It's Monday, and in this segment of the broadcast, he joins us each week with his market commentary. Bob is CEO and Chief Investment Officer at Crossmark Global Investments, one of the leaders in the faith-based investing space. Bob, normally we get your take on the markets. This week, a recap on your 10 predictions. Now, for someone who's not familiar with your 10 predictions, give us just a thumbnail sketch of what you do every year.
Yeah, it's like writing a master's thesis, Rob. I put piles of paper around me that I've accumulated over the prior couple of months, and I just start writing down ideas, see which ones are consistent with the other. The goal is to make people think, including myself, about what the world's going to look like next year in terms of the economy and earnings and interest rates and the Fed and capital markets and politics and all those good things. And, our goal, of course, is to get them right also, Rob, but it's more about helping people think.
迎えに来るからさ、中にね。だから終わったら、あそこに座って待っててくれたらいい。気をつけて、雨降ってるからね。スリップしないように気をつけて。忘れ物ないように。頑張ってきて。
We had, on the other hand, some good calls related to inflation being sticky, therefore the Fed not lowering rates as much as people thought. We got our sector prediction very right, as it were. The election, one of the ones, geopolitical cross currents multiply. That certainly happened, but have little impact on markets. We feel good about that prediction. I wish the currents hadn't multiplied. Yeah. And then for all of us that are faith-based share of industry AUM rises for the 8th year in a row. You know the story better than anybody, Rob. More and more individuals, financial advisors, and institutions are spending time aligning their investments with their values. It's a great thing.
Yeah, let's talk about that a bit more, Bob. I mean, you and I know the data says that when presented with the opportunity, believers in dramatic numbers want access to and want to see their values implemented in their investments, and yet we know it's just a drop in the bucket in terms of what's actually been deployed. Why do you think that is, and what is it going to take to see that accelerate?
You know, there are several things. It's prove it to me. I hear that. I hear, well, still, how much do I have to give up to do that, despite all the empirical studies that have come out and said you don't lose anything? A legitimate objection is capital gains. I got to move out of those stocks into these stocks and generate a gain, and that's hard to do, and that holds people back. And the whole education process, it's like when you say, oh, math, I like math, could you educate me? It takes a few years sometimes.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly right. Well, we're certainly doing our part to make sure that financial advisors are not only aware of this, but able to use this in their portfolios, because I think that's a big barrier. Bob, the other one, though, is 401ks, because a lot of these plan administrators are slow to add faith-based investing mutual funds like Crossmark, right?
Yes, absolutely. The approval the education process of those home offices, and then the approval process, it all just takes more time than we might think. Can't just wave a magic wand.
Yeah. Bob, one of the predictions that didn't turn out the way you all anticipated related to credit spreads. And I'd love for you just to unpack that a bit. What did you expect, and what did we see, and why?
Yeah, I meant to include that in this is what we got wrong. We were too cautious. What happened during the year as it relates to credit spreads is the economy got better, and as a result, yields on corporates and high-yield instruments compressed. They came closer to those treasury yields, and many of those spreads, as you know, are historically tight. That is, we've never seen them this close to treasuries as people just gain confidence that the world's okay and likely to stay that way.
Yeah, interesting. Bob, what about earnings? I know you correctly predicted that earnings growth would fall short of the double-digit percentage consensus expectation. We did end up with single-digit earnings growth, and yet despite that, not reaching double digits, incredible strength in the market. Are those two things, out of sync with one another?
Not necessarily, although it does point to the fact that if you look at the gains this year in the stock market, a little less than a third of it came from earnings. 2/3 came from the price-earnings ratio, valuations moving higher at a pretty rapid rate. It is often the case that earnings estimates from the beginning of the year get cut during the year, as analysts tend to overestimate the earnings for the companies that they in particular follow. So that's not all that unusual, but it took, coming into the year, the guess was 12% by the consensus, and it took till about 6 weeks ago before that consensus moved under 10, so it's been a slow decline.
Yeah, very good. Bob, any precursors or preview of coming attractions for the predictions next year? Perhaps a theme that you could share with us?
The theme for this past year was, does Goldilocks remain a fairy tale?
Yes.
We could repeat it. I doubt we will. We haven't come up with a final theme yet. But it's going to be something along the lines of, have the opportunities, have the risks gone up, have the tails widened. We have an election, we have a lot of policy uncertainty, and that is likely to play into, at a minimum, some higher volatility, probably in both directions.
Yeah. All right. And as you said before, you feel like, or still feel like, we're headed into a period where the average annual returns over the next 10 to 20 years are certainly not going to be quite as rich as the last few decades, correct?
Correct, and like the last 2 years, 25 and 27. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yes, it sure would be. Well, Bob, we'll look forward to unpacking your predictions for 2025, which, can you believe it, is just around the corner.
The year's gone by so fast. Merry Christmas to you and all your listeners.
Merry Christmas, Bob. We'll talk to you real soon. Lord bless you, buddy.
Bye-bye.
All right. That's Bob Dahl. He's Chief Investment Officer and CEO at Crossmark Global Investments. If you want to learn more, you can go to crossmarkglobal.com. While you're there, sign up for his weekly investment commentary, and that will ensure that when his 10 predictions are out for 2025, you'll get a copy of those as well. All right, head back to the phones here. We're going to round out the broadcast in just a moment, but first to Louisiana. Ken, thanks for waiting patiently, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm 65 years old, and I have a conventional IRA. It's a little over $1 million. And I'm wondering, should I start converting some of that traditional to the Roth, since I'll be required to take that RMD at 73?
Yeah, not necessarily, Ken. I mean, there's a case for that potentially, but I wouldn't say just automatically. Are you still working right now?
No, I'm retired.
You are retired. Okay. Yeah, so you have to begin taking that RMD, but not until April 1st of the year following the year you turn 73. So you've got a good bit of time here before you have to start taking a required minimum. Secondly, if you were to convert this roughly $1 million, even if you did it over several years, I mean, you could have hundreds of thousands of dollars in income tax that you would have to pay as you make, you'd have several $100,000 each year of income that would be taxable. So not necessarily the tax bill would be hundreds of thousands, but that's a lot of tax that would be paid on a lot of income as you recognize it in the conversion. The other thing I would say is keep in mind, one of the great ways to satisfy that RMD, so long as it continues to be available, is something that you can start doing once you're 70 and a half, and therefore you could also do it when you're 73 and that required minimum kicks in, which is a qualified charitable distribution. And so any giving that you're doing out of checking or savings right now, let's say your weekly tithe to the church, or just end of year giving or whatever it is, you could replace that. Instead of sending that check out of your checking account, you could just start sending it from your IRA directly to your church or another ministry or charity. Again, it could be the same amount you're already doing. I'm not necessarily saying you have to give any more, but the qualified charitable distribution allows you to get that money out of your IRA without ever paying any tax on it and satisfy your required minimum. So that's something that a lot of people miss. So if you wanted to take advantage of that, you wouldn't need to convert anything to a Roth. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So I think you're in good shape, but remember, you're still looks like about 8 years away from needing to take an RMD, and I don't think you necessarily have to convert anything to a Roth, but hopefully that gives you a few things to think about, sir. Lord bless you, and all the best to you in this exciting season of life as you seek out what God has for you in terms of what's next. Thanks for calling. Well, folks, that's going to do it for us today. Here in the closing moments of the broadcast, let me invite you here at year end to prayerfully consider a gift to Faith 5. We are just under $80,000 away from closing out our listener support goal for the year. It sounds like a lot, and it is, but we're going to get there. A lot of generous folks who really value this ministry coming alongside us to encourage us and support the work of equipping God's people. And here's the exciting thing. Some generous donors have said we're going to double every gift till December 31st. Every gift of any size, as it comes in, let us know. We're going to send the same amount and double it. So if you'd consider a gift right now, it'd be a real blessing to help us reach our goal. Just go to faithfi.com and click give. That's faithfi.com and click give. Big thanks to my team today, Sandy Dickinson, Devin Patrick, Jim Henry, and everybody here at Faith 5. Come back and join us tomorrow. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
90.5 KTXG Greenville, Dallas.
Hamilton III.
If you really want to see the tides turning in our country, can I challenge you and encourage you? If the Lord could grab a hold of us in our family, you would see the tide in our politics turn.
The Hamilton Quarter, weekday afternoons at 5 Central on American Family Radio.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association. For American Family News, I'm Bronson Woodruff. There could be a temporary pause in the fighting in Ukraine. Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban is said to have suggested Russia may be open to it. Fox's Gernal Scott has more.
Florida GOP Congressman Mike Waltz, President-elect Trump's soon-to-be national security advisor, said Orban's words in a meeting last week at Mar-a-Lago may warrant some consideration if it means an end to fighting.
Look, if that is some type of ceasefire as a first step, again, we'll take a hard look at what that means.
But Ukraine's ambassador to the U.S., Oksana Markarova, remains skeptical.
Every time Russia is talking about some ceasefire,
they align.
Both were on CBS Face the Nation. Markarova says good faith from Russia is hard to accept after it destroyed lives and infrastructure in Ukraine.
Boston police arrested a pair of drone operators for flying their device close to Boston's Logan International Airport. Here's Marianne Rafferty.
2 men are facing charges after a drone was flown, quote, dangerously close to Boston's Logan Airport. Police used advanced monitoring technology to track the drone's location and find its operators. Police say they were on a nearby island. Officers are still looking for a third person who took off in a small boat. The 2 were arrested on trespassing charges. More charges could be added. The incident comes amid growing concern over mysterious drone sightings across the East Coast. The FBI says it's been investigating hundreds of reports since mid-November. They claim many are manned aircraft and there is no current threat to public safety. The federal government is now sending New York a high-tech detection system to address the issue. Other states are also calling for more federal action.
Lawmakers from both sides of the aisle are demanding the federal government release some information about the drones or shoot them down. A judge who helped orchestrate one of the worst judicial scandals in U.S. history was among the 1,500 people whose sentences were commuted by President Joe Biden last week. The scheme involved sending children to for-profit jails in exchange for kickbacks. Biden's decision to commute the 17-year prison sentence of Michael Conahan angered many in northeastern Pennsylvania, from the governor to the families whose children were victimized by the disgraced former judge. Conahan had already served the vast majority of his sentence, which was handed down in 2011. The South Korean president's impeachment trial has opened after lawmakers voted to remove him from office. Here's Jonathan Savage.
Members of the South Korean parliament voted to impeach President Yoon Suk-yeol on Saturday. The country was thrown into political turmoil when he declared a short-lived martial law earlier this month. South Korea's constitutional court will now decide whether to confirm President Yoon's removal or it could reinstate him. Judges have 6 months to make up their minds, but are under pressure to act more quickly. In the meantime, Prime Minister Han Duck-soo is serving as acting president. Yoon has defended his actions and says he'll fight until the end. Jonathan Savage, Fox News.
Expect to hear more next year about Louisiana's 10 Commandments law. AFN's Robert Thornton explains.
The Louisiana law requires a classroom poster or a similar framed document with the 10 Commandments printed in a large, easily readable font. The poster will also include a context statement. Last month, arguments were made at the district court level on a preliminary injunction. The state lost, but talking about this on Washington Watch, Attorney General Liz Murrell said it's not over yet.
Preliminary injunctions are still an early stage of the litigation, not supposed to be a final judgment on the case, but this judgment looks a lot like a final judgment. I think the judge intended it to be viewed that way. He also intended, I think, to chill any school board from complying with the law.
Currently, the issue is before the U.S. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals.
We are on appeal at the Fifth Circuit. We were able to get the case expedited for oral argument, which means that we are going to be arguing it in the Fifth Circuit on January 20th. We've asked the Fifth Circuit to go en banc, so that means we would have the whole complement of active judges on the court.
She said if the case is heard before the full court and it's a good result, it'll be ready to go to the U.S. Supreme Court.
And that's all for this hour of American Family News. You can find much more news from a Christian perspective on our website, afn.net. For American Family News, I'm Brian Silver.
Do you want to prepare for God's calling on your life to ministry? Many people have a sense that God is calling them to ministry, but they don't know the next step to take. Here's a step that may be for you. Wesley Biblical Seminary offers a new Bachelor of Arts in Christian Ministry that's entirely online, and it will prepare you for whatever ministry God calls you to next. We want to equip you with knowledge and tools you need to confidently fulfill the calling that God has put on your life. Learn more at wbs.edu. That's wbs.edu.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Today's Issues is the name of this program, and it is Monday, December the 16th, 2024. And joining me in studio is Fred Jackson. Good morning, Fred.
Good morning, Tim.
And Chris Woodward.
Good morning.
And Ed's off all week, is that right? So Ed Battagliano for the Ed Battagliano fan club.
Yes, Ed's off all week. He'll be back Friday for Trivia Friday.
Okay, he'll be back Friday. So, if you want to know, where's Ed?
He's not watching his Boston Bruins.
Yeah.
They're not doing well at all.
Are they not doing well?
No.
So he's taking off this week. I guess mourn.
Yeah, that's part of it. That's part of it.
Mourn the fact that his team's season is over before it really ever began.
I teased him last week. I said, are the Boston Bruins still in the NHL?
Oh, Fred.
Hey, listen, my team is just as bad.
Just as bad. So
Chicago Blackhawks, we're in misery.
You're both suffering together.
Yes.
Huh?
Yeah, I've actually changed jerseys. I'm cheering for Winnipeg these days.
Oh, fair weathered fan, are you?
Yes. Enough of this.
Hey, as a Mississippi State fan, football fan, I understand your. Yeah, bro. So is Chris too.
Yeah, and in my case, the Dolphins are terrible.
Yeah, so your college and your pro teams are terrible.
Yeah, I sometimes wonder.
You get counseling for that?
Well, I sometimes wonder if God, back in the 90s, when Chris Woodward...
Be careful what you blame on God. Go ahead.
Well, I just wonder what his facial expression was when I decided in the 1990s I was going to root for the MSU Bulldogs and the Miami Dolphins. I just okay,
well, you decided? I was born this way. Most fans, your dad start taking you to the ball games when you're 5 years old, and and when you're 25, you figure out, hey, we're not Alabama.
Yeah.
So you're telling me I got a lifelong? Anyway, so you enjoy your 7-8 win seasons and move on to the next sport.
You get moral victories every once in a while. Well, we didn't lose that bad.
Right. All right, so we hope everybody had a nice weekend. Do you have a nice weekend, Fred?
Sure did. Got a little wet here yesterday in our part of the world. Yep. And the leaves finally came off the trees.
Yeah.
We've had a weird fall here. It warmed up. I actually had blossoms coming out on some of the trees.
Yeah.
Like springtime blossoms.
Yeah.
So the trees really went nuts.
Yeah.
But the rain this weekend took all the leaves down.
Yeah.
So I'm celebrating. I can finally clean them up.
Yep. Except when they get in the gutter.
Yeah, no.
The gutters.
Yes.
Well, we had our family.
Oh.
So, yeah, my wife's side.
Okay.
Of the family.
You have to spread it out.
Yeah, we got all our family lives in North Mississippi, so we had my